Now, Dalton, would you kindly start the episode, boyo?
This week on the Steam Machine podcast, I had a shock to my system. You could call it a BioShock. Cue the music! Hey everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Steam Machine podcast. My name is Dalton, and I fucked up my own intro because I meant to say jolt of electricity. It was a BioShock, but I fucked it up. It's all good. I'm joined, as always, by the Destructo Bros.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Nate.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to fuck it up worse than Dalton. Hi, it's Willie.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Hey boys, how are you doing these past couple weeks? Let's start with Baldo. How you doing, buddy?
Yo, so I've been playing a lot of some retro games. I've been playing Project Warlock, which is it's like a first-person shooter that's it's almost like Wolfenstein engine type, except it's like really modern too. Like it has like particle effects and all that, but like the actual gameplay tries to keep the mapping like very simple and straight to the point. I got through 4 out of the...
Oh, I was going to say, sort of kind of like a bolt gun in a way, where it's that retro style, but there's updated...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Like bolt gun, like Dusk. It's a boomer shooter, they call them.
Okay.
I've been enjoying it. Not enough that I would make you guys play it, but like I mostly liked it a lot. I'm on the end chapter, like the last episode 5 out of 5, and I don't know if I'm going to actually finish it just because I got really irritated by the way I died last. Because I'm cool with getting killed by like tank monsters, right? But I got killed by the succubuses, which are just glass cannon monsters. And, like, I can understand getting killed by, like, a 90-foot tall robot that shoots bullshit at you. But, like, when, like, it's a dude that you could blow up with 2 shotgun shots, but it hits you first, it feels bad every time.
Yeah, that never feels good.
But the levels are short. I mean, like, most of the levels are finishable in 10 minutes. And there's 60 of them, so that's pretty cool. That's, like, 10 hours of gameplay if you look at it that way. But... Damn.
It's like you don't mind getting killed by a Baron of Hell, but if you get killed by an imp, you just feel bad.
Exactly. It's very much that. I feel like I got killed by basically the Revenant of this game over and over again after blowing up all the cyber demons.
Fair enough, man.
Well, that's what's up. When I was adding, so I took my my short game list earlier and realized I'm like, man, there's only like 200 something games on here. I feel like I have more short games than that. So I went to the ever wonderful howlongtobeat.com that has the part of it where you can input your Steam ID and it will give you your entire library and how long it is. And then you can sort by length. And then I just scrolled up from the bottom and added probably a good another 175 games.
Sick.
Right. Nice. So it's just so many. But one of them was Jockbunz, which... I believe
by David Szymanski, yes.
Is another boomer shooter, and I thought of you. It was just funny that I was like, oh, I wonder if
it's by David Szymanski, the same guy that did Dusk.
Oh, well, there you go. So I was like, I wonder if Willie's played this. That was the thought that I had.
I haven't. I am aware of it, but I haven't played it. Like, I respect everything that guy's done. The only thing I've played by him is Dusk.
Okay.
Like, I also want to play, from his shit, I want to play Iron Lung, which is like a horror game where you're like under a blood sea in a submarine.
Hold on, did he also do Barotrauma?
And yes,
or no, not, but he did another game.
The thing about Iron Lung is that they're making a movie of it. Like Markiplier is still directing it.
Huh. Wasn't he?
I think it's actually about to come out.
Wasn't he the guy that when that sea thing imploded and all those people died, that game just spiked in sales and he felt bad about it?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's what it was. That's what the memory of my brain was trying to piece together. I'm like, what's up?
Yeah, that's David Szymanski. He seems like a really cool guy, though.
Also hilarious how that was called Ocean Gate.
Yeah, it sounded like it was going to be controversial. I don't think there's a controversy, though. I think everyone agrees it fucking blew up.
Well, blew in.
Yeah.
You're so right, Dalton.
So
I apologize.
Poor people, but like, damn.
Yeah, they were rich people.
No, not poor people. Rich people. Jinx, what's up?
So I just want to point out that I'm looking at this guy's list on Steam, David Szymanski, And he has a game called Squirrel Stapler.
Yeah.
Hunt squirrels, staple them to a corpse, and meet God.
Meet God. I really need to check out the rest of David Szymanski's output because, Squirrel Stapler sounds awesome. Chalk Goblin sounds awesome. Iron Lung sounds awesome. The only one I've played is Dusk, but it's one of my favorite games of all time. So,
Dusk was pretty
David
good.
Szymanski.
Yeah.
In theory, I already love you. In practice, I need to love you a little bit more.
Whoa.
So yeah, what else you been up to, bud? Anything interesting? All right, what about you, Nate?
Yeah, so it was 4th of July weekend, so of course I went to this huge Razer party and got completely... No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that shit anymore. I'm old. So 4th of July weekend, my wife and I were finally like, you know what? We've had it. This queen bed is too small. So we ordered a king-size bed, and I got to spend, most of 4th of July putting that thing together, and it was like... But let me tell you what, it's so nice having a king-size bed.
It's worth it, right? Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, dude, you could just spread out and just, reach all the way over to the other side of the bed and still not feel your partner.
We're just swimming in an ocean apart from one another.
Yeah, when...
I remember moving from a twin to a full, and, the difference is insane.
Yeah, I have a twin, but it's one of those that's... I had to get... It's an extra long and wider than normal twin.
Yeah, the ones they use in dormitories.
Yeah, because it was I'm tall and I don't like my feet hanging off the bed. But when I went to St. Augustine and I was in the hotel room, I had a king size bed. And mother of God, to be able to wake up and stretch and roll over and then have to roll over again and then one more time to get off the bed is fantastic.
Dude, yeah, it's you think there's not that big a difference between a queen and a king, but there really, really, really is.
Dude, it's 1.5 feet in each direction, I feel like.
Yeah, it's just I'm so free right now, and I'm not getting hot because there's not two bodies constantly pressed against each other making us sweat.
For one thing, the queen can move as far as she wants, but the king can be checkmate.
Stupid.
That's true.
But other than that, I got this really cool new piece of art for my room. And I'm going to have to show this to you, so hold on. Let me go grab this real quick, and I'll show you.
Oh, I'm excited. Let's go.
Nate's getting some art. He wants us to see his art, so here it is. Let's
here you go,
see
boys.
Yeah!
Oh, you got that! Yes!
Yes, bitch. Oh. That is tremendous.
Nate, I want you to explain. it. We're not going to fucking overtalk your cool thing you got. That sculpture is incredible.
So I went on eBay, and it was actually the way it first happened was I saw it on Facebook Marketplace, and I was just I've wanted one of these for such a long time, but they're asking $400 for it or whatever. So eBay exists, right? So went on eBay, did my little search, found it. It was all right, I'm finally pulling the trigger on this. I have to have it. I got a Macho Man Randy Savage Slim Jim display from you'd see at a gas station. It's apparently the 2001 edition, has a really cool big bust of Macho Man Randy Savage with Slim Jim on it. It's I've wanted a Macho Man Slim Jim thing for so many years, dude. And I'm just I'm finally, you know what? I deserve this. This is for me. I'm doing this.
Dude,
it's so fucking based.
When they brought those back recently,
based is the only word.
I would go into my local gas stations and be like, can I buy this when you guys are done with this? And they'd be like, well, it's up to the store manager, yada, yada, yada. And they would never give me a definitive answer, and then they were gone. I was like, I bet they wanted them for themselves.
Yeah, I guarantee if I worked at a gas station, they were getting rid of one of those displays, that would be coming home with me.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, that's just that D's nuts sign. I was like, no, I need to have this. I was so happy when I walked back in. Nick's like, here, I put this aside for you. I love you, you big fuck.
Yeah, so I'm super happy about that because, obviously, Macho Man Randy Savage is my favorite wrestler of all time, and how can you not just want to snap into a Slim Jim? Ooh, yeah!
Yeah, dude, that is awesome. I love Macho Man.
He's so good.
One of these days, we need to just all get together and rewatch his match from WrestleMania 3 against Ricky Dragon Steamboat because it's incredible.
Yeah, he was such a performer and such a personality. I don't think that era of wrestling would be the same without him. I don't think Hulk Hogan would be as over without Macho Man Randy Savage, to be honest.
Oh, no, not at all, dude. He needed, Macho Man was the worker.
Yeah.
Of those two, you know what I mean? The twin, not the Twin Towers, what do they call themselves? It wasn't the two-man power trip, it was the The something.
Wait, what team? Sorry.
Macho and Hogan. The Mega Powers.
The Mega Powers.
The Mega Powers. The Mega Powers collide. Yeah. Good stuff, dude. Classic.
That is the thing about Hogan too, or not Hogan, Macho, is he combined like being a really good wrestler with being a complete psycho on the mic. Yeah.
If we ever do the thing that we were talking about with Mikolov, like all four of us getting together, going and hanging out for like a weekend or something, we need to take like a couple hours of one night and just put on some classic wrestling and show Mikolov, this is why we liked it growing up.
Yeah.
And then I can put on a newer match and be like, Nate and Mikolov, this is why we still like it.
That's fair.
I think that'd be fun.
But yeah, I was just so stoked about it because, like, it's something I've seen in gas stations year after year. I was like, I want one of these for my house. And I was like, you know what? Spoil myself. Treat yourself. I'm getting this for myself. And just, like, one of those little things that makes you happy, you know?
Dude.
You deserve it. Clap, 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 clap.
Here's what you do. You go find you a small vase that'll fit in the display, right? And then you get your wife some flowers and you come home and be like, got these for you, honey. And I know the perfect place to put them. And you put it in Macho Man.
That's really good.
And then you could look at her and just be like, doesn't it just scream, ooh, yeah. It'd be tremendous.
Snap into a Slim Jamolia.
Oh, man. But good times. But, like, that's about what I've been up to. Like, that just came in today, and I was so excited because, like, you know, you get that anticipation when you order something off of eBay. You're like, I hope it looks as good as it does in the picture, and I was not let down.
Nah, I was so happy to see that because I know you showed us when you were, like, thinking about getting something like that, and you were like, oh, it's so expensive, though. I'm definitely not going to get it.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to break your own rules.
I did something somewhat similar, not nearly as cool, but I got a thing from, I think they were called Shield Breaker. It was like a D&D dice thing. And they were like, just pay shipping and we'll send you a mystery set of dice.
Ooh.
So I did that. All right. And they sent me, you can't really see them when they're in the baggie, but they're like clear, but they have like cool little stuff on the inside of it, like neat. Swirls and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're really cool. I got these in anticipation for that game that I'm setting up for. Even though I think we're going to do most of our rolling on D&D Beyond or D20, whatever the site is, but still nice to have a set of dice.
Oh yeah, you know, can't go wrong. So what have you been up to, Dalton?
Oh man, been playing with the pupper who's standing next to me looking at me like, why are you not playing with me right now? I have been playing some games, man. I beat Power Wash Simulator.
Yeah, congrats.
Didn't see that
There's
ending coming.
There's a lot more gore to that game than you expected, right?
Yeah, didn't see the end of that coming.
Right?
I was, it made me giggle though. It was a good ending. Fun. Thumbs up. Don't know if it'll ever come up for the show, but it's definitely, it's actually interesting enough that it would bring up a discussion for the show of like, man, I wonder how they got around to this type thing, you know? But, I beat.
It's just a very good relaxing game, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. It was, you know, night that I would just put on a long video on YouTube and go power wash.
Yep. Exactly same. But like fucking like I like the lore. Like there's a lot of really cool characters in it. Like I like that one like mystery solving couple. Like you find stuff from them before they actually met when you're like scanning one of the earlier areas. Like that's really cute, I thought.
So I played that, and then I also beat Dragon Age Origins. Tremendous, tremendous game. Going back to our Patreon only section, that is another series that I think we should do for the show at some point, is Dragon Age. And also I beat Divinity 2 Ego Draconis, which is like an action RPG from back in the day. It was one that I had on 360 and I really enjoyed, and I got it on Steam. And finally I was like, you know what? I'm going to play through that again. And I did. And I sent y'all a little clip from it, and I think I posted it in either show chat or screenshots over the Steam Machine Discord, bit.ly/TSMP Discord, all capital letters. That you get an ability in that game eventually where you can just like turn into a dragon at will. So I love running and just jumping off a cliff and free falling for a little bit and then hitting the button, and your dude just turns into a dragon and you fly off. It's the coolest fucking feeling. And I can't help but think like, man, why didn't Skyrim pull from that, where you could just be running and turn into a dragon and then fly across the map? Could have been cool. But
Fusro me.
Exactly. Hak-tu-ah.
The power words. I learned this from a wall with a hole in it.
I'm going home.
Oh, man. So I've been dabbling in a couple other things here and there. One we'll touch on later. And I beat a game called BioShock. So I've been trying to do my best to knock off I'm back in the negatives for backlog golf. Proud of myself because I was up to like +6. I had to put in some work. But it's been fun just finding these little shorter games that I can knock out that I actually enjoy. Not that Dragon Age or Divinity were short. Those do not count. But
no.
Divinity 2 was shorter than a normal RPG would normally be. But Dragon Age took a while.
I got a short game you should probably try to work on, Dalton. Have you heard of Persona 5 Royal?
Yeah, I think I'm a good ways into that game. I just kind of I decided to stop playing it when everybody else stopped playing it. It's just like, we'll come back to this eventually, I'm sure.
We will.
I thought it was going to be, I got a short game you could worry about. How about my dude?
But anyway, sorry.
No, I get what you're saying though. Yeah. Like we'll get to it eventually. It's just one of those that it's like, man, that's a commitment. But yeah, let's see. Anything else that I've done that's been of interest? Not particularly. I think I'm going to reinstall Starfield now that more mods are available and see what mods are out there for it. But other than that,
incorrect.
I think we should move on to our game talk, gentlemen. We played a game called BioShock that was one Sir Nadathy in his choice. So first up is the dubs. The obligatory wigabooty of bullshit. BioShock is a 2007 first-person shooter game developed by 2K Boston, later Irrational Games, and 2K Australia, and published by 2K. The first game in the BioShock series, it was released for Microsoft Windows and Xbox 360 platforms in August of 2007. PlayStation 3 port by Irrational Games, 2K Marin and 2K Australia, and Digital Extremes, my goodness, was released in October 2008. And the game follows the player character Jack, who discovers an underwater city of Rapture, built by a business magnate Andrew Ryan to be an isolated utopia. The discovery of Adam, a genetic material which grants superhuman powers, initiated the city's turbulent decline. Jack attempts to escape Rapture, and that's where the game kind of takes off from there. So first impressions, boys. Let's start with Red Headphones. Nate.
Yeah, so obviously this is my host pick. It's a game that I'd never played before. Obviously one of those classic PC games that you've always heard. Well, it's not even a PC game necessarily, but one of those classic video games that you're supposed to have some experience with. It's like, you know what? Feels like it's about time to finally do that. So first impression was when dove right in. The game starts off with a plane wreck and your dude goes down into the ocean and you find your way down to this bathysphere and down into Rapture itself. And that opening sequence where you're just like floating down in the bathysphere, looking around, seeing this underwater architecture of the city that's been built up, seeing like all the fish swimming by, the sea turtles, the whales, everything like that. Just starts off with a really cool, calming environment. You're like, man, I wonder what it's going to be like when I actually get into Rapture itself. And then the bathysphere comes up into Rapture. And the game suddenly becomes a horror game because the first thing you see is this horrifying human mutant type thing just like slashing at the bathysphere. I was like, I did not realize I was getting myself into a horror game when I picked this. It's like, and the thing this game does super well from just the jump is like it drops you in. And you feel like you're there, and you're like, holy shit, this is crazy. So, like, my first impressions were, like, very, very positive. Like, man, this is how this game's starting off. It's starting off with a bang. I can't wait to see where it goes from there.
All right, well, what you will.
Oh, I can't argue with anything he just said. Fucking, like, the immersion. I mean, like, it's funny, because, like, you're immersed underwater or whatever. But, like, you immediately feel like you're part of this world. And, like, I had a little bit of experience with this game because, like, I had, like, neighbors in my dorm that would play this game and hear the fucking music playing and all that shit in the dorm. But, like, the moment I got down there and I was like, oh, it's got this cool ass Art Deco art style, and like the lettering reminds me of like the Batman the Animated Series type art. It's like, this kind of gave me like a very similar vibe to what Fallout 3 did, but I liked it more immediately.
I can see
like
that.
A ruined post-past world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the thing that jumped out to me most is like the first thing that jumped out was atmosphere. Like you go in there and like Nate said, it's kind of like you feel like you're there with the immersion and all of that. And it's very much like even the little sounds, like the soundscapes that are going on in your ears while you're playing, and the little noises that you can hear, the ambience, the music that's playing softly before like big music comes up and plays, it all fits very, very well and kind of helps shape this world that you're in, that is this unknown entity that is miles underwater, which that in itself is freaky to me.
Yeah,
because like you're walking through some of the early hallways and you see cracks and shit and there's water leaking in and you're like, well, this surely can't be good.
Yeah. Like, you get the idea everything went wrong very early. It does an awesome job of like, it's not just a ruins. It's not just a like utopian city. It is clearly a utopian city that was ruined like last Tuesday.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of this, like the concept of this place and Andrew Ryan and all of that, I think is interesting because they're kind of based on some of these. Sorry for me clearing my throat, it's just allergies. Based on these people that were kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Like
objectivists or libertarians,
like weird, like the thinkers, like they're like Ayn Rand, George Orwell, Walt Disney, Rockefeller, like those types of people. Like there's just weird rich people that want to do what they want to do, and they're going to do it, and that really comes off through the game too.
It harkens very strongly to objectivism, which is the study of basically Ayn Rand's books. Ayn Rand, sorry. Like she came from a socialist country, and she hated basically where she grew up because it was like, no matter how strong you were, you would be impoverished or whatever. And she believed so much in like the American dream that when she got here, she decided to fuck up our country's philosophies forever.
Gotta love it, dude. So, okay. Things you liked about the game, kind of the beginning to, like what was your experience like, I guess we should say, running through it. I know we don't necessarily need to run through like beat by beat, but there are some cool things that happen in the game. Are there any that kind of jump out?
I will say that I got shut down really early on because I kind of expected the game to be video gamey, and didn't realize it would give me the freedom to do a few things that I should have been able to do. Like, I was like, oh, this game's from 2008. I can't, sneak past that guy. He's just a fucking wall or whatever. And it turns out I could have snuck past him. I could have killed him. So that did kind of get me early on. But once I started streaming it to you guys, I feel like I definitely got more of an appreciation for how open the choices are. It's very much inspired by like System Shock or Deus Ex.
One thing I didn't know about this game going into it that I thought was kind of cool was the whole idea of the atom and like the special powers you get from that. So like the plasmids, yes, thank you. So like the first plasmid you get this ability to like Spider-Man shoot out electric bolts, like your Emperor Palpatine, let's call it that. So,
yeah. And
I was just like, I did not realize, I thought this was just going to be strict FPS kind of thing. I didn't realize it was going to be like have a magic system in it as well. So you're having to do like ammo management and plasmid management throughout the game. Like, and in order to get yourself some more plasmids, you have to do a hypodermic needle into your arm for it.
Yeah, it's got to shoot up.
And like, there's about...
I thought those were going to be much more restrictive than they were, by the way. Like, I was scared to use any spells, basically, because I thought early on it's like, oh, if I use the electric power, it uses like one fucking needle.
But the cool thing is like, the game has kind of like an inherent system in it where like, early on in the game, you have a wrench as your first weapon. So, like, the first thing you get is a wrench. And then shortly after that, you get your first plasmid, which was the electric shock. And the game quickly teaches you to use the electric shock to stun the enemy and then go beat the crap out of them with the wrench, which I thought was a pretty cool way to introduce that kind of mechanic.
And
yeah, if I go to give any credit to this game for anything, it's the fact that it instinctively tutorializes so well. Like, not only that, but like, it'll pop up messages like based on things it thinks you're not doing that you should know about the game. Like, it doesn't talk down to you, but it makes you feel like, oh yeah, this game is trying to help me succeed in it. The game wants me to play the game well, and I kind of love that.
Yeah, it's also good too that like the tutorials actually teach you things that are handy. Like sometimes, tutorials kind of teach you stuff and you go on and you never really have to use that if you don't want to. But there are times in this game where it is absolutely key that you shock somebody and whack them with your wrench because ammo is not always plentiful.
Yeah.
And you could be running real low and you got to break out the wrench. And that's why I think it's important to like upgrade your wrench when you can get access to upgrades and stuff.
Yeah.
I do think the game did a really good job of being stressful with ammo management to the point where whenever I got to a vending machine, I was very tempted to spend all of my money on
And that's
ammo.
another thing I think it did really well was because, like, you did have the little bit of scarcity to it, but it never got to that point where you're like, well, I'm completely hosed. There's nothing I can do at this point.
Yeah. Fully agreed. Like, it was scarce, but it was never hopeless. You know what I mean?
And another thing that I really liked about this game was, like, it had this ability where, like, if you had the electric bolt, which I think was the most important plasmid in the entire game, was the first one you get, in my personal opinion.
Followed very closely by the fire one.
Yep.
Those two are the ones I use the most.
Yeah, I 100% co-sign that statement. But, like, if you have the electric bolt, you can, like, shoot down, like, the security bots and stun them for a little bit, or shoot down security cameras or any of, like, the turrets that are sitting around. And if you do that, it gives you the ability to hack those and make them work for you instead, which I thought was a really cool mechanic. The hacking was actually pretty fun in this game, because, like, the way it kind of works is there's a bunch of tiles on the screen. You have to flip these hoses around to make everything go from point A to point B before the hose fills up with water and either sends off an alarm or gives you an electric shock or something like that.
And
I genuinely think I enjoyed this game more as like the puzzle game hacking thing. I think I liked that more than I liked it as a first person shooter. That was satisfying as hell every time.
I was stressing myself out way too hard for those fucking puzzles. Like, I watched you guys do it, or I watched Willie do it, and Nate's like, oh, you do it like me, huh? And where you guys were just clicking all the squares to flip them, and then you had a bunch to work with. I was doing it one square at a time, trying to drag, oh man, I was stressing myself out. And yeah, I could have made it a lot easier on myself, to the point that eventually I was rolling in dough, and I would just buy, like, and just buy the little bypass. Yeah, because, like, you can, when you're going to do your hack, you can you have an auto hack, which I also used those when I would get them, but also you could just buy it out, and you could just pay like $20 and it would bling and be done.
For safes, yeah,
which was awesome.
Yeah, which I thought was really fun. And you could hack, like, the vending machines and stuff as well to make prices cheaper or to unlock certain items that could only be gotten if you hacked it.
Yeah, that
including auto hacks, which I thought was very funny.
Now, quick question for you boys. When you would hack a turret, especially the ones that would fly around that shot stuff, how many times did you get the pop-up, you killed a friendly turret, because I would do that, and then I would just see it out of the corner of my eye and be like, oh shit, boom, and blow it out of the fucking sky, and it would be like, oh, that was a friendly one, and I'm like, oh, damn it.
Yep.
Never killed a friendly, but I fired on friendlies a lot.
It was always my shotgun, just boom, they got blown into smithereens, and I was like, well, fuck.
Another thing I really enjoyed about this game as well is the way that it handles narrative and storytelling. So as you go through the game, you have this guy Atlas that's telling you things to do, what you should be working towards, and giving you goals. Because, like, the whole premise is basically you've been set down by Atlas to rescue his family, to get his family out of Rapture so that they can go on and live their life. And so you've come down to do all that for him, which narratively is pretty interesting. So, like, he gives you these things to do. But as you go throughout the game, you also pick up these little, like, recordings. You can hear other people that lived in Rapture, lived, died, or still around in Rapture, and hear what they have to say about things that are going on politically in the landscape, or just sometimes you just get little personal notes from people. So I thought that the way this game handled narrative was really interesting because, like, you could listen to as much as you wanted to. You didn't have to go through all the narrative, but the more you did, the deeper and more real Rapture felt.
Yeah, and I think that harkens back to games like Fallout, where as far as the story goes, there's a mainline story you can follow, but as far as the story of the world, there's a lot there if you dig into it, you know what I mean, as far as like reading terminals and journal entries and things like that. It's the same thing in BioShock where you're picking up all of these things where it's like, oh, press T to listen to this or whatever. And you don't have to, but I recommend that you do because it's going to make you that much more invested in everything that's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was kind of like what Doom 3 did with the PDAs, except they were interesting in this. Like, I wanted to listen to every one I picked up, because I was, even like, I knew it was like, oh, it's just going to be Andrew Ryan gloating about some shit, and then I listened to him talking, and I'm like, oh, this guy sucks even more than I thought he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And the whole time you're going through this, you're hearing about how there's this other guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, that he's kind of like rivaling with this guy, Fontaine? Yeah, there's this Fontaine guy that's down there who's like smuggling all this stuff in, collecting all this extra atom and stuff like that, and just all around giving Andrew Ryan the business and making his life so much harder. And to a point where it kind of starts becoming like a war between the two down there in Rapture. Yeah. It's like that narrative persists throughout the game, and I think it really just gets more and more interesting the more of the tapes you listen to.
Now,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Will.
Oh, I was just going to say, you know, when we talked about Portal, and I said a lot of video games are well written for a video game. Portal was well written, period. This is what I mean when I say a game is well written for a video game. Like, it had a really good story for a video game.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I don't think this would be a great, like, TV miniseries like
novel.
Last of Us or something.
Even TV miniseries,
but I think this is a very well-written video game, and it has artistic quality on its own merit.
This could...
just absolutely... Just the art direction, in particular, is incredibly valid.
I don't know. I think this could be a cool Uwe Boll movie.
Hey, suck my ass and taint.
But, you know, it brings up a point, though. Interestingly, it's like, artistically, this game does a lot, and I think it does it really well. And I think this is one of those games that's going to look good in the future as we continue moving down the road, because it doesn't go for hyper-realism. Because if we went for hyper-realism, what year did you say this came out again, Dalton?
2007.
So if you went for hyper-realism in 2007, this game would look like absolute asshole now. But instead, it went with
that Art Deco, dark, you know, really lived in the environment.
And when you run into other humans in the game, they don't look like super realistic human. They almost have a more Tim Burton-y quality to them. So, like,
they're either mutants or they're fucking, like, in diving suits or some shit.
And like, when you see their faces, their hands, and all that stuff close up, too, because, like, with the little sisters and things, which we'll get to that in a minute, too, of course, but...
Oh, yeah, we haven't even brought up Big Daddies and Little Sisters yet.
Their features aren't, like, strictly hyper-realistic human. Like I said, I feel like they have more of a Tim Burton-esque quality to it. And I think that's really important in a lot of ways, because we always think we have the most realistic-looking games no matter what era we live in. And then 20 years later, we look back and we're like, oh, damn, Lara Croft looked like that?
Yeah. Good example, too.
So it's just like, you know, I really appreciate what this game did artistically wise. Even sound design, like, the music was really good. And, like, whenever something was going on, it would, like, it knew how to build tension through the environment and the music and the sound. Like, I think it did a super good job of all of that. Because, like, this game was a lot more of a horror game than I really assumed it would be.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that kind of faded as they go on. But that very first BioShock is, like, a lot of people said was almost not quite to the level of, like, survival horror, but there was an element of it.
Yes, 1,000%.
like, I don't know if it's actually directly supposed to be, but, like, it feels like it's a spiritual successor to System Shock 2, which was largely a first-person shooter game that was a horror game.
Oh, it is 100%. Ken Levine was 100% inspired by System Shock. Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I think, like, that goes into even his new game that's coming out, Judas, I believe it's called. Same thing. It's the same style.
I'm becoming Judas in my mind.
There you go.
Sorry, I had to do a wrestling reference.
So when you're getting
wouldn't be this podcast.
When you're getting towards the end, we already did a wrestling reference. I had a whole section on Macho Man Randy Savage in the intro, but anyway,
that's true.
But anyway, so going more into it's like once you get through the end of like the first level, and let's also talk about that because I can't quit talking about mechanics and stuff. But like this game is very much not open world. It's fairly linear. Like you might go back to a couple places a few times, but it is a linear level-based FPS, which I really was happy about.
Half-Life-esque.
It's
Half-Life-esque.
Yeah. I call it almost like a segmented open world, like where you can go back and forth between it. Dragon Age is almost the same way, where like you have like a quote-unquote hub, whereas in BioShock you have the elevator or the bathysphere or whatever you're using. But like in Dragon Age, you have your overworld and you click the area you want to go to and you go on the map and you go there and then boom, you're in this big wide area that you can go and explore. But it doesn't try to render the whole game at once like some open world games do. So they're able to focus more on detail.
Is that kind of like Kingdom of Amalur?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like that style.
And BioShock did that well as well.
I agree. I think that's a very good comparison point. But anyway, so I'm trying to talk about story, but I keep sidetracking myself. But like at the end of the first level, you start walking down and you just hear this little girl kind of shriek. And there's this man standing there with a gun at her because apparently he had just blown up this giant dude in a robotic suit and he was about to go after this little girl, and so you make the decision to take out that guy and save the little girl. And you notice the little girl's not quite right, so she's what in this game is called a little sisters, who are usually protected by these. I mean, we've all seen a Big Daddy at this point, right?
Big Daddy, like
one of the coolest enemy designs in video games, period, in my opinion.
I believe,
and what's funny
I believe there are 3 flavors of Big Daddy. I only saw the Bouncer and the Rosie.
Elite Bouncer and Elite Rosie.
Okay.
And then, like, when the little sisters are running around with the Big Daddy, they're just yelling, "I wipe my own ass! I wipe my own ass!"
They're really funny. And it's like,
Hi, Mr. B.
Mr. B. Mr. Bubbles, what are you doing? Don't be a slowpoke, Mr. Bubbles.
They're really cute. They're really sweet.
Yeah, and so, like, so once you get to the, you find out, like, these little girls, these little sisters are have a bunch of this stuff called the Atom, which the Atom, ADAM, if you need the spelling, is like basically the whole thing behind all of the plasmids, all of the upgrades you can get. And you find out from your little phone, you get a call from Atlas telling you, just take them out, harvest them. You can get all the Atom you can get in this world because you'll get more Atom if you harvest them. But then at the same time, there's this other character that leans over the window like, please stop, save. There's another way. You can save these little girls and turn them back into regular little girls. And it's Dr. Tenenbaum, yeah. And the whole time Atlas is like, don't trust that Dr. Tenenbaum. She's a piece of shit kind of thing.
Yeah, basically.
and so,
Atlas up until this point, does he have an Irish accent or is it Scottish?
Yeah,
one of the
he's
two.
been very Irish sounding to me.
Yeah, and
I thought he sounded like an American doing an Irish accent to me.
And Fontaine, he does not like Fontaine, but that
no one does apparently.
And that brings in one of the moral quandaries of the game that you have to decide: do you want to sacrifice the little sisters and take all of the Atom, or do you want to save them and you get less Atom that way,
but still
but still something?
Yeah,
and. Yeah, so were any of us child killers?
No, I think we all had too big of hearts.
No, I'm sorry. You give me like a little girl in a video game and I'm like, oh, I gotta get you out of here. Sorry, you seem sweet and nice and I just want to protect you from this war.
Yeah. And
although I killed your dad, so that might have not been the best thing.
I mean, I get that they were only guarding them because of what they were, but like at the same time, I always felt bad anytime I killed a Big Daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too, because they don't aggro on you unless you fight them. So
if you get too close to the little sister, they'll aggro on you.
Well, yeah, because they're protecting it.
Which I think that was well programmed, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. And
yeah,
so
everything about this setting is super interesting. I love this setting.
And from this point on, if you ever see another little sister, they're always with Big Daddy. And so you have the choice. You can fight them and either, rescue or harvest the little sisters at that point. But to do so, you have to get through a Big Daddy, because as long as Big Daddy's around, you cannot do anything with the little sisters.
Yeah, like even mechanically, it will not allow you to unless the Big Daddy's down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
you can't just hit and run the little sister. It does not happen.
I will say that the game had its frustrating moments for me, but for the most part, I really enjoyed the level designs as the game went on. Like, I felt like they kept changing it up enough to make it feel fresh.
Yep.
But, and I'll be the first one to bring up a negative. There were a couple quests in this game that made me want to tear my hair out, where it was like, you need 4 of this item that only drop from this specific enemy. And it's like, okay, well, 2 of them spawn in this area. So I had to run back and forth between these 2 areas trying to find these specific enemies to kill them. And they just were not dropping what I needed. And it was driving me insane. I'm like, man, what is the drop rate on these? Unless my game was just glitching. I don't know.
No, so the first fetch quest the game gave you, where it was like, you need 7 this item, 7 to this item, and 7 this item you get from the botanist. I saved and quit, and I never returned to the game.
That's fair. But, the first boss of the game, and it was so funny.
Oh,
yes. I watched Willie do this, and I learned a lot from watching Willie do this one, because I thought he was for sure toast. But the first boss you get to meet is Dr. J.S. Steinman. And, if you pick up all of the lore bits about this guy, you realize what a crazed psychopath this dude is. And, basically he's, this plastic surgeon type down in Rapture, and he'll, his job is plastic surgery, making everybody pretty. And as you wander around his area more and more, you see all this kind of fucked up shit he's done. It's just body mutilation and kind of things. And it's just whew, this is dark.
Yeah, that is the first time I thought even the game lore, the game lore was already dark. That's the first time it just got really dark in your face,
Correct me if I'm wrong. That was his introduction to his areas, when you walk up on that corpse that's been pieced together, and there's the thing right behind it about beauty and plastic surgery and stuff, and it's come see the doctor, he's so good, and there's just this creepy looking pieced together corpse sitting there, and you're like, oh, all right then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like the fucking Joker.
And there's levels where you get a couple more plasmids, and you have gotten more weapons at this point as well, but the plasmids you get the fire shooting one where you can shoot fire out, and then you get this is it telekinesis? No.
Yeah, I think you get telekinesis. You get telekinesis third.
Where you can
it's either here or it's right after. Yeah, no, you get it before you run into him, because you need that to get to
So you can grab objects out of the sky and throw them back. There's grenade throwing enemies, and you can grab the grenades out of the sky and toss them back, which is pretty fun.
I like telekinesis.
Quick question for you boys. What was your favorite weapons to use? Did you have a favorite that you stuck with?
Mine came at the end of the game, and it just felt so overpowered. So there's a bow you get at the end of the game, and the bow is just so good, and you can collect the bolts from the bow off the enemies after you'd beaten them. So it's I'm not worried about running out of ammo, really, and it does a shit ton of damage, way more than the pistol or even the machine gun would do.
Not gonna lie, when you can headshot reliably with the pistol, like someone who's good at first-person shooters, the pistol feels fucking goated. I loved the pistol, but ultimately I ended up using the shotgun more, just because I thought it was a little bit more variable. I liked that I could miss by a little bit and still dust dudes, and I really liked the electric shot.
My go-to was the shotgun, but specifically after I upgraded it. Mm-hmm. When I gave it its 2 upgrades, so it had more damage and it fired faster.
Yep.
Then that was primo. Before that, I would swap between that and the machine gun, but I was hit and miss with the machine gun until I got the recoil upgrade. Yeah.
The first upgrade I bought was the machine gun recoil upgrade, and I still didn't like it. It's too spray and pray.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I've always been the one too, though, in games where you can switch between them. I always use burst shot. I almost never go full auto because it's always just and the recoil's all crazy. But let me get that. And I tried to do that with that gun, but I feel like the power wasn't there with it.
Yeah, it was just not a very good gun.
Yeah.
Honestly.
That's the problem. Even if you got headshots with it, it wasn't killing in one like the pistol and the shotgun were.
Yeah.
Especially not like the bow does. Yeah.
I need to check the bow out. That sounds
It's really late in the game. Like, really, really late. But yeah, so like after you get through that section, the next one you go to is you're trying to get to this one area and you have to get through this guy named Peach Wilkins who wants you to get him a camera so you can take pictures of these splicers for him. Because the splicers are what the mutants are called. And so he's like sends you on this mission to get this camera from this other part of the thing and take pictures of 3 spider slicers. And let me tell you guys, this is where the game really fucked up for me. I got the pictures of the first 2 splicers really fast. I saw the...
I had to look up...
No, I didn't have to look it up. I found him. And he disappeared. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go chase him down and find a picture. Never saw him again. I spent over 2 hours looking for him. Like, just going through all the areas of the level that I could still get to. And I found, I was like, okay, let me just Google this. This is obnoxious. And I got on this thing where I saw on Reddit, somebody said, like, oh yeah, if you don't find that third one fast enough, he just despawns and you can't finish this. So,
no!
So, yeah, it's apparently an issue with the remastered version on Steam that never got fixed. So I had to reload that level from the beginning and start that entire section over again. From there on out, I used a lot of save slots.
Yeah, I bet. Quickly, while you're talking about the issue with the remaster, when we inevitably get to BioShock 2, might I recommend that we play the OG BioShock 2? Because if you go on Steam and look at the reviews for BioShock 2 Remastered, I believe that they are mostly negative.
Oh, really?
If we get around to BioShock 2, we will keep that in mind. Remind us at that point.
Yeah, for sure. I was surprised to see that, and I was just like, ooh, all right. Yeah. But yeah, there were a couple different little janky things. I chalked it up to it's an old game. It's going to have issues. But then, like, with it being a remaster, you would hope that they would have gotten that stuff out. But it's all good. It happens. Yeah. So I'm glad I'm not the only one that just, like, wasted a couple hours trying to figure out a quest that was just being stupid.
Yeah, it was really obnoxious. I was so sad about it.
I just Googled shit if I was lost for more than 10 minutes.
I think that's a fair and good way to play the game, honestly. It's like, It took me a really long time to figure out how to get into that one room where you had to use the telekinesis to grab the key out of the room through the window. That took me a really long time to figure out.
So I don't want to jump too far ahead, but dude, there is a specific area that I want to talk about. I don't know if you got to it. Nate, I know you did because we had a private conversation about it.
Yeah. So, like, after you get through Peach Wilkins, and guess what? You have to kill him too.
Yeah, shocker, I know.
But then the next area is the one Willie got to, which was the forests of Arcadia. And...
So this was right after fucking the submarine exploded.
This is probably my least favorite part of the game.
Same.
Oh. Yeah, because I got to where the botanist was gassed, and then it was like, hey, you need to find 7 pure water, 7 flower petals, 7... I'm like, no, actually I don't want to do this, so I'm just going to quit playing this video game.
Yeah, because basically what you do is you get up to it, and you find out that, like, these trees are basically what's keeping all the oxygen in Rapture going, because, like, the botanist is planted all these trees, and when you get down there, this is after, like you said, the submarine explosion, which I forgot about too. So, like, basically, when you're down there, like, the submarine section, what happens is, like, you're supposed to be finally getting to where Atlas's family is coming to meet you, and you're going to be able to go back and take them back up. But, Andrew Ryan finds out and just blows everything up down there from where he's at.
Because he's a fuck.
And kills all of Atlas's family, apparently, at that point in the game, too. But you're just like, at this point, like, Ryan's pissed. He's like, the goal now is to kill Ryan. Would you kindly kill Ryan for me? It's kind of how that goes. And so you keep going down, and that's when you get to the Forest of Arcadia. You get to the place, you meet the botanist, and then Ryan gasses the botanist to puts all these chemicals that are supposed to kill all the trees to stop the oxygen from coming in. And so, like, you have to go do this fetch quest, which Willie and Dalton both said is pretty miserable.
Yeah.
Well, I just didn't do it. I thought it would be miserable, so I didn't. And then I quit playing the video game, and now you're ahead of me.
Yeah,
I'm still going to be on the podcast because I do not give a fuck about spoilers for this 15-year-old video game.
It was pretty annoying. You running around getting all those items. It didn't take me super long. Like, I found them all relatively quickly, but it was just kind of annoying to do.
Yeah. Fetch quest is a good way to kill
I just don't
momentum.
want to. I bristled. Yeah. I resented it.
It's
didn't
a good
want
way
to
to
do
kill
that.
momentum in any game.
Exactly.
Unless it's an optional fetch quest, which I'm all for most of the time, but like when it's a mandatory fetch quest, it's a momentum killer. But you grab the things, you you reverse the damage done to the forests, and then you can continue on to mine and Dalton's favorite section of the game, which I will let Dalton take the lead on.
Yeah, dude. So I don't remember Homeboy's name, but you go rolling up in there. Sander Cohen. I'm trying to remember where at in this, so I can click it.
Yeah, Sander Cohen is at the it's the area called Fort Frolic.
Why are my eyes not working? Anyways, you roll up on him, and he's kind of talking to you through this little speaker, and he's like, yes, and he's an artist guy, and his whole thing is art, and he wants you to kill these specific people and then photograph their deaths, and it'll be part of his grand art exhibit. And you have to you have these, I think it was 4, right? 4 portraits that you have to place after you take them. And then it's kind of like a fetch quest in a way, but you're running around fetching pictures of dead bodies that you kill. So you run around and do it.
I do think that's also fun too, like in the lore at this point. Like at one point, one of the characters is surprised that Fontaine is such a cutthroat fucking gangster, because it's like, everyone in this place is basically just like an artist or a tennis player. Like, this is not where gangsters live.
Yeah, and his whole area is like, you're having to... I felt like that was the area where I first had to use a lot of my powers to do different things. Like, you had to utilize your shock, you had to utilize your fire, you had to utilize telekinesis more so. But there were also, like... I'm not going to lie to you. I was also like listening to a video, so I didn't hear a ton of what was going on. But I know that when I would turn a picture in and he would talk, all of a sudden waves of enemies would come after me. And it was like you had to kill enemy. And specifically the very final wave that he throws at you is pretty hefty.
Yeah.
But this was the most enjoyable part of the game. Nate, if you remember more specifics than me, I beat this game like 2 days after last time we played. We did an episode.
Yeah, because like this whole section was really interesting because like Sander Cohen, like we said, was this artsy fartsy kind of guy, and his whole thing was finding beauty in the world. But his things he found was beautiful was kind of twisted and wicked, which is shocking for this game, right? And so like you would find all of these sculptures of people, like these kind of paper mache sculptures of people, and if you would like hit it with your wrench or shoot it, blood would come out of it. He had just been like taking people and wrapping them up and putting them as sculptures. Like,
yeah, he's so fucking weird.
Yeah, and so like, but the whole area itself is kind of like theater based. So like everything has like, there's an atrium, you go down into the theater, and everything around you is kind of this art world. So it just makes like a really interesting and unique environment to be doing all this stuff and doing these basically what amounts to hits for him and taking pictures for him to put on his grand masterpiece.
Now, is this the first area that you're introduced to the Houdini splicers, the ones that pop in and out?
Those came in during the forest, the Arcadius forest.
Okay. I remember them being a big pain in my butt in this section.
Yeah, those guys were kind of annoying because like the Houdini splicers have this ability to teleport, which not my favorite thing in the world for an enemy to do.
No, I've wasted so many bullets trying to shoot at those guys, and they're just not there anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, the Houdini splicers, I actually did run into a few of them, and I hated them. They were the worst monster in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a pain in the butt.
But, like, the whole crescendo of this, like, because, like, the thing is, like, you're taking these pictures, you put the first 2 down, and Cohen's kind of like, what, you don't like my art? And that's why he sends the first wave of enemies after you. And then when you complete it, he sends this huge wave after you. And then once you've defeated them, he comes down clapping. He's like, I knew you weren't like all the other ones. You've done such a good job, boy. And he, like, I'll open the way for you. You can continue on. And he does. He opens the way. You don't have to do anything with him. You can just leave him. But he gives you a gift. But there's a second gift that has a lock and key on it. And so you're like, nah, Sander Cohen ain't getting out of this one. So you can fight Sander Cohen. And he fights basically kind of like a boss version of a Houdini splicer.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't even let him finish talking. He was like, you did such a good job. And I shot him in the back of the head with a shotgun. And I don't remember if I had to do a boss fight or if he just died. I don't remember.
He wasn't necessarily hard. He just took, he was like a Houdini slicer, took a few extra hits, but I don't even remember really having to go through using a lot of first aid kits. The thing about him was, like, because you kind of used up a ton of your ammo in the battle before him with all the different enemies that came jumping you. But he wasn't that hard. And then you got the gift, which really wasn't even all that great.
Oh, it really wasn't.
What's the gift?
I think it was curious. Like one tonic, something like that. Like,
yeah, not worth the time.
But, like, the game gave you the choice. You didn't have to fight him. You could have just continued on. As far as I'm aware, you could have just continued on without fighting him.
Now,
but both of you can't be helped.
The next section, Hephaestus, I believe it's where you fight Andrew Ryan, right?
Yeah, this is where you...
Or it's close.
Is it? Or... Yes, it is. This is where you finally meet up with Andrew. Finally get to see and meet Andrew Ryan. Yeah, you're right.
Now, here's something I don't think is going to be controversial, but could be. And Nate, I know you agree with me on this. This, to me, could have been the final chapter of the game. And it would have been totally fine with me. Everything after this started to get a bit tedious.
I'm going to guess you have to track down Fontaine after this.
Well, okay, so you go through Hephaestus, you battle your way, you end up in Andrew Ryan's office. And he starts talking to you. And he's like, yada, 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 would you kindly stand right there? Would you kindly? Such an interesting term, isn't it? And he starts talking about it, and he said, would you kindly sit? And your character sits. And he says, stand. Would you kindly? And your character stands up. He goes, see? He goes, there's a lot of control, there's a lot of power in words. And he basically explains to you that the term, would you kindly, you have to obey.
Yeah. You're basically a sleeper agent. This has been the term that you've heard Atlas say throughout the entire game to you. Every time he asks you to do something, every time he tells you the next thing you need to do, it's always, would you kindly, would you kindly?
Then he starts hitting you with that family you're trying to get home to, all those flashes that you were getting of the memories of your parents and all of this. He goes, can you actually remember anything about them? Can you remember anything before you were in that bathysphere or before you crashed in that plane to come here? Do you remember anything at all? You don't, do you? That's because, and it's like it was all implanted in your head. Yada, yada, yada. Like, you are sleeper agent number one. You have forgotten everything. You are implanted with false memories, and you are here to do a job. And it is fucking wild, man.
And Ryan's like, who do you think you're working for right now? Atlas? Who do you think Atlas is?
Yeah, and that's when, I don't remember exactly how he comes about it, but he says, would you kindly, and he hands you a golf club. And he's like, hit me. And you bash him in the head with the golf club. And then he says some more stuff. And he says, would you kindly hit me again? And you hit him again. And then he just says, would you kindly kill me? And you hit him again. And he's sitting there. And he's like, at this point, his face is all swollen. And he's talking. And he just looks at you. And he's like, obey! Bam. And you put the golf club and it sticks in his fucking head. And one of the things he says is, and I remember because Brian, one of our listeners, DM'd it to me. A man decides, a slave obeys. And that's when he starts talking to you about the would you kindly thing. And that's when he tells you at the end, obey. And you fucking kill him like he told you to. And then he's just laying there dead on the floor. And you do the final thing that Atlas wants you to do. And that's when Atlas is like, hoy lad, I guess it's time to drop the shindig here. And you're right, Willie. It is an American doing an Irish accent. And it turns out that he is a douchebag.
Atlas doesn't exist.
Yeah, Atlas isn't real. What was that guy's name? I can't remember. Fontaine.
Fontaine?
Yeah, it was
Is he Fontaine? Yeah. Oh, okay. Thought he was Fontaine the whole time. Awesome. Great.
Yeah, and
that part was not spoiled for me. I just kind of figured.
It just kind of ends up that now he is the big bad. And how are you? And so you're then making your way to him, and
you have to break his control somehow. And the way that kind of happens is like you're left basically in this room to die essentially, but a little sister that you saved before comes and leads you away. It's like follow me. I'll take you somewhere safe. And you follow her, and you end up. They lead you to this giant hole. You end up falling down, and then when you wake up, you're with what's her name?
Dr. Tenenbaum.
You're with Tenenbaum, and she's trying to help reverse the hold that God, names are hard for me tonight. Fontaine has
over you, and you end up waking up in this like apartment, and there are little sisters everywhere, but they're all the ones that you had been saving throughout the time.
Which makes me wonder what would happen if I had saved none.
I feel like that would have been an empty room. You know, I feel like there wouldn't have been any of them in there, but it was an interesting section, and that's kind of where you learn that the little sisters, like, because you have been helping them, they're going to help you, and they still have that instinct in them, though, that as you're leading them, there are just these bodies laying there, and they have to walk over to them and be like, "Ooh, I have to get the atoms." So you have to protect them while they're drawing out the atoms. So it's like a what's the word I'm looking for?
Escort mission.
Escort, yeah, it was like an escort mission.
Yeah, it's like the end of the game. Like, there's more lore and stuff, but the whole thing really ties down to at this point now, you're really just going after Fontaine. You're like, I'm going to put an end to this. I'm going to get out of here, but before I do that, I have to defeat Fontaine. And you do end up fighting Fontaine, who is this dude just completely jacked and full of Adam now, like, and you know how.
Nano machines, son!
Much. I mean, yeah, it's not too far off. And you end up in the final boss fight, which at this point, you're pretty OP. Like, you're really strong at this point, and you have enough money to have full first aid kits and Evo needles, so like you're not really that stressed out. And I found the final boss fight to be fairly easy. But what you have to do is you have to keep beating him. He has like you have to beat him like 4 times essentially, and then use one of the things the little sister uses to suck out Adam, to suck his Adam out. And then at the end, you beat him, and then all the little sisters start jumping out of those holes they come out of and start hitting him with the needles, and which is a pretty satisfying scene, honestly.
Yeah,
So I guess that's the little sister ending.
So there are 3 endings to this game. There is the good ending, and then the bad ending, and the meh ending are the same, with the girl talks to you in a different tone. One of them, she's very angry. Fontaine is very angry. Not Fontaine, excuse me. Tenenbaum is very angry at you. One of them, she's just sad. She's angry at you if you just harvested them all. She's sad if you only saved some of them and then harvest the rest of them. And then if you just did saving, you get the cutscene that me and Nate both got, which is you return to the surface, you bring the little sisters with you, they're able to go on and have a normal life.
Because of you.
And then, because of you, they go on.
Family.
They get married, they're able to go to school, have children, raise families.
Aww.
And at the end of the game, it shows your old man hand in the hospital bed, and it turns over, and all these female hands come in that have like different wedding rings on and stuff, and come and grab your hand as you're passing on. And it's a very sweet ending to the game.
Yeah.
The bad ending cutscene is the bathysphere. The bathysphere comes up and bounces, and it opens, and little sisters, like there's 3 like dock workers standing there looking like, what is this? And little sisters just jump out and fly into the sky, and they come flying down, and they have those sickle things, and they just slit homeboy's throat, and they land and they start killing people, and they just like start slaughtering and taking over the world so you can become this big atom master.
That's kind of cool too, though.
It was brutal, dude. But yeah, dude, that's the original BioShock.
Yeah. Got through that really damn fast. I'm actually surprised. So
now,
yeah, go ahead.
One complaint that I do have about it that we haven't brought up yet is, as the game progressed, at a certain point, you've seen all the enemies you're going to see. They just start getting more and more bullet spongy. Where at the end of the game, some of the things that I was killing in one shotgun blast were taking like 3 to 4.
Mm-hmm. And
it was
things
just...
we're taking one crossbow shot, we're taking two. Like, that's why I stuck with the crossbow for so much of the end of the game.
Yeah, that became a bit of a slog, but I tried not to let that affect my feeling about the story of the game, because the gameplay of this game is very much product of its time.
And for being a product of its time, I think it's exceptional gameplay for being the time that it came out.
Oh, yeah.
And I do think my main complaint about this game is I do think it overstayed its welcome a little bit. It was about 3 hours too long, which in the grand scheme isn't the worst thing in the world, but I think they could have been a little more succinct and wrapped it up after the Ryan situation a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I agree. They could have shortcutted the way to Fontaine a bit more. So we ready to...
Well, here's my question, like, for you guys, too. Because this game was originally, like, what? Came out on, like an Xbox? PS3
and Xbox 360.
Yeah. Can you guys imagine trying to have played this game through with a controller and not a mouse and keyboard?
Oh, I am glad.
The game really wanted me to.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Like, if I didn't disable the controller, it actually wouldn't let me play with the mouse.
Yeah, I disabled that shit immediately.
So I started this game on controller, right? And whoever was in charge of mapping the controls to a controller for this game is not very good at their job, because like some of the decisions that they made were so... I feel like there is now a standardized controller scheme for shooting games as far as a controller goes. It might deviate a little bit, but holy mother of God, were just some of the things that they had me doing was just unintuitive. I don't know. I didn't like it, so I ended up swapping to mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, that's fair. Like I started with the controller because that was what the game's programmed to. Like Willie said, if you don't disable controller, it won't let you play with mouse and keyboard. So in the plane crash section, I started with the controller. I was like, all right, I got to figure out how to make mouse and keyboard work. I've become a real PC gamer at this point, guys. Like, I'm sorry. I can't just do everything with controller now. And so, like, I immediately looked up how to fix that. I was like, man, I kind of have a lot of respect for the people that played this on console back in the day, because I can't imagine doing it now.
People loved it, though, man.
Yeah. I mean, when that's what you had, that's what you had. And this game was very, very good. So, I get it.
Frankly, I'm just glad you looked it up, because if you hadn't told me, oh yeah, if you hit the disable keyboard, or disable gamepad thing, you'll get your mouse back, I just assumed the game was just not reading my mouse, period.
I know. People, like when I play Final Fantasy XIV, I play it with a controller. And people are like, how the hell do you play this with a controller? Because it's an MMO. I'm like, because I started on PS3 and then played it on PS4, then got it on PC. So I'm just used to playing it with a controller.
Yeah. So
that's like second nature to me. Whereas coming into it, I would highly recommend anybody just use mouse and keyboard. Just learn mouse and keyboard, way easier on you.
That is absolutely fair. But yeah. Any other thoughts or opinions about this game before, like Dalton said, we move on?
I mean, the main thing I wanted to just really hammer home is that I think that they did an awesome job with the setting. Rapture was a really cool place, and the Art Deco art style of it was incredible.
I could see Tyler doing a cool D&D type setting or something in something along the lines of Rapture. Mm-hmm. Maybe one of his Call of Cthulhu style games. I think would be really interesting.
Yeah.
But as far as the game goes, I think we pretty much covered everything I wanted to chat about.
I think so too.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's me. I loved the sound design, the art design. Didn't really love the actual gameplay of it. But, on the other hand, I was extremely stoked that it went really quick. Like, I feel like this game hits you with plot point after plot point. Like, you take 10 seconds, you're in a new plot point. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't waste time. It respects you as a player.
Yeah. So you boys want to do some ratings?
So let's rock and roll. Would you kindly give us some ratings?
Yeah. I liked this game. I didn't love it, but I liked it. More so for the story than I did the actual game itself. Some things that didn't age well, we touched on. The things that really aged well, I think it deserves a lot of praise for. I was juxtaposing between two numbers, so I think I'm just going to stick it right in the middle. I'm going to give it a 7.5 bios out of 10 shocks.
Nice. Yeah, for me, I really like this game a lot. Honestly, to the point where I was like about halfway through it, I went ahead and installed BioShock 2 because I was like, hey, maybe I'll dive into that a little bit before this episode. But by the time I got finished with the game, I was like, yeah, it overstayed its welcome a little bit. I don't want to play BioShock 2 right away. So there's that. I do think that, like I said, like when I was about halfway through this game, I really loved it. I was having a ton of fun, and I still really, really liked it at the end of the game. So it was a strong, strong like as opposed to a love at the end. I think it's definitely worth anybody's time because, like, I think for the most part, this game aged extremely well. It aged a lot better than a lot of older Bethesda games I've played. I can say that much. So, when it all comes down to it, I really did enjoy this game. Like for a lot of the reasons Willie said, sound design, just the overall art aesthetic of it, just wonderful. The gameplay's not bad. I still like the gameplay of it for the most part as well. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and give this game 8 Big Daddies out of 10 Little Sisters.
All right. What about you, Will?
Wow. The guy that... Oh, God damn it. The guy that didn't beat the game gave it the highest score. That's wild. I love it. I love it.
Now,
That's fair.
You know what that tells me? That you need to stop worrying about games for the show. Because that's 3 now. Neptunia, Monster Hunter, and BioShock that you were like real worried about not liking. And then you came in and you just fucking loved it and gave it a good score. So I think... you should just stop worrying, and you'll be all right.
I was going to make that same joke. Good job. All right. Well, then.
I am death, becomer of world, or whatever the hell he said.
Oh, Lord. I guess that leads us into the audience questions. So we have a few this week. The first one comes in from Kana. What video game announcer or narrator would you have narrate or announce your life? I think the Darkest Dungeon guy would be hilarious.
All right.
I haven't.
It's an interesting game. It's one of those kind of like Portal, where it's like it seems like one thing, but then you figure out it's kind of another as well. I think I'm going to take a slightly cheat on this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go with Michael Cole and Corey Graves, the announce team from the WWE game, the new WWE game.
I think it
would be funny.
I have 2 answers for this. One that I just think would be hilarious is every time I walked into the room, the announcer from Super Smash Brothers is like, Nate!
Nate!
I just think that would be wonderful. But I also think it'd be really funny to have GLaDOS narrate your life. Oh, Tubby's eating a sandwich. Good job, Tubby.
Nate was taking a shit. Nate is out of toilet paper. Oh, no.
Okay.
Sucks to be you.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, here's a funny thing. Willie just came back. He went out of the room for a second. Now he doesn't have a mustache.
Yep, I see that.
That's funny.
The toothbrush? Oh, man, that would have been a great screenshot.
All right. Our next question comes in from Kana, who asks, would you kindly?
No.
Kana, you gotta be more specific. You had him. Now it's gone. All right.
Would you angrily?
Our next question comes in from Adam. What are your thoughts about the mini games in BioShock? Yeah, I'll agree. I really did enjoy the hacking as well. Like, I think that was like the main mini game thing you could consider a mini game in this game. I thought it was fun. I didn't find it as stressful as Dalton did.
Well, there will be silences on where Willie's there. So I think I didn't quite like them. Like, I know we touched on the whole mini game thing. It just wasn't my cup of tea. Although it did remind me of the old games that I used to play on the Mac when I was at school, Gizmos and Gadgets, which I believe is kind of like the Incredible Machine, like those style of games. Those were fun. But as far as being a hacking mini game, it was all right.
Gotcha. And I think I accidentally copied some questions from the old one. Let me go double check our room real quick. No, that was the last question we had for this week, actually. I had left a few on from last week on the question list.
Alles gut getan, mein Freund. So, well, at some point, Willie's audio cut out, listeners. So we don't know when that was, but it's all good. I'll handle it in post. What does that leave? House cleaning and Willie's game. But Willie, if you're not recording right now, then you want me to tell everybody what your game is?
Yeah.
You want to do house cleaning first? We can do that.
Well, Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
Alles gut. Let me get it pulled up.
Oh, yeah, we're only at an hour 33 right now. Okay, so quick update for everybody at home. Willie's only lost a few minutes, so we should be mostly okay.
Luckily. All right, so let me run through the house cleaning and then we'll get to Willie's wrap up. If you want to kindly leave us a review, would you kindly leave us a review over on iTunes? 5 stars, that would be wonderful. It helps us in the algorithm, helps more people find the show. Also give us a thumbs up over on Spotify. That would be wonderful. If you want to join the Discord, come chat with all of us and the wonderful people who listen to the show. bit.ly/TSMP Discord, all capital letters. And
all
then,
capital letters.
if you will, check out the website, bit.ly/The Steam Machine Podcast, which is back up to date. Thanks to Dane. Thank you very much, sir. If you want to donate to the show, which at the moment would help me out a lot because I'm out of work and funeral type stuff more expensive than I thought it would be. So yeah, patreon.com/The Steam Machine Podcast. Shout out to YabsPod. Go check out the archives. Shout out to the JRPG Report, your bi-weekly source for JRPG news from me and Mikolov, aka Team Retrogue. Last episode, we got some news about Ease 10 coming out and the Ease Oath and Felghana remake. It's going to be nice. We talked another thing into existence.
Heck yeah.
Because on the Ease 8 episode, I'm like, I don't know if they're bringing 10 West, but that would be cool. And then not a week later, hey, Ease 10's coming to the West. Sweet. If you want to pick up a shirt, tsmpproductions.threadless.com. You want to check out my music, nilethenightmare.bandcamp.com. I did just release a new album recently called Vivid Dream World. So if you'd like to go check that out, please do. Also, just a quick update. I am updating and rebranding my goth stuff. So my EP that I released under Nile the Nightmare, I have renamed on Bandcamp. So if you see something come up, it's the same album. It's just I changed the name of the band. It's no longer Nile the Nightmare. Now it is Tragedy Idol. So that and I'm working on getting it up on Spotify. It is currently under review. So we'll see.
Cool.
That was what I spent a lot of my night doing last night. But now that we are like back into things and I get to now figure out how the hell I'm going to edit this tomorrow. Willie, my good sir.
Yeah.
What is your pick for the show?
Well, we've been doing a lot of fun games and a lot of action RPGs lately. And I really wanted to just go to the action RPG that is like the harshest for us to play. That's right. I wanted to do a Souls game. But, I'm jumping my boys in gently. So I would like my Souls game of picking to be Elden Ring.
So he's going to fuck us gently with a chainsaw.
Exactly. Nathan, that is such a great way of saying it. I can't wait to watch you play it. Please stream it to me at some point.
Yeah, that's definitely going to have to be something that we stream in the Discord so people can gander at our displeasure.
Yep.
I'm planning to stream most of my playing on Twitch because I think it's going to be really funny.
Yeah. And since we want to give ourselves plenty of time to experience this misery, we're going to throw a short game for next episode in between. Dalton, you want to cover that for us?
Yeah, man. I pulled the short poll, and let me get the name right. So the last game that won is Arcana Hearts Love Max 6 stars with 6 exclamation points. Extend. So we are going to be playing that. It is a waifu fighter. It's an arcade game, and it was published by Arc. Why did my brain just shit when I was trying to think of it? Arc System Works. Arc System Works. They I think they're the ones that publish like Guilty Gear and those games. So
nice.
Should be a good time.
Can we 1v1 online? Because that would be fun.
I believe that there is online multiplayer, so we can look into that, my good sir. So yeah, man, it's gonna be who's your waifu? Who do you kick ass with? We shall see. But yeah, so 2 weeks we'll be back talking about Arcana Heart 3, Love Max in the next episode after that, I guess a month. We're going to give us to play some Elden Ring, and then we will regale you with our tales from that game and its magic. I'm very curious what builds you guys are going to go with. I kind of have an idea, but we'll see.
I've literally never used magic in a Souls game before, and I don't think it's going to change today.
I remember when that game first came out, people were bitching about people who won the game using magic builds, saying, you're not playing a real Souls game if you use a magic build. Because there's so many elitist...
Suck my ass!
Yeah, there's so many elitist dickholes when it comes to Souls games. I'm playing it however the hell I want to play it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna warn you about, Willie, is that if you're gonna stream Elden Ring on Twitch, just be prepared for people to try to backseat game you.
No, I have mods.
Good. All right then, boys. Then we will get this thing out of here and we can get these shindigs started up and get playing them. So until next time for the Destructo Bros, I'm Dalton, and as always, everybody, take it easy.